there are moments when you're making something where you even kind of stop and you realize the nuclear energy inside of you that's required, that took you 20, 30 years to get there. Sure. Even you have a moment of consciousness where you're like, this is going to take everything. And then when you sustain that for an amount of time, like for example, if you've pitched a book, you're really not sure how it ends. It's going to take 8 months. The pay is going to be crap. You got to rearrange your life and, you know, all the responsibilities you have. And then you're like 3 months into it and you're like screaming in your head, like, why did I do this? But you're still compelled to do it. And it's taking energy drawn from every aspect of your life, stuff your uncle taught you. You know, the love you felt for your dog, how much you like food, what a teacher said to you once in passing as you guys were like whatever. Yeah. It takes all that stuff, and it's dangerous to talk about it, but that's pretty much what OAX took. And we decided early on that we were going to make a year 3 show year 1.
This is the Inkpulp podcast. All right, welcome to the Inkpulp podcast. We have our special guest today, Bill Cox and Kasra Ghanbari. Did I say that right?
You did.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we have Eric, and Mattteo is in the waiting room. So when should I let him in?
I don't know, man.
Can we vote?
I'll let him in.
I know we're new here.
We let the guests vote.
Go ahead. All for letting Mattteo in. All right, here we go.
All right.
There he is.
I watch you guys.
Hello, Mattteo.
We started. Don't say anything stupid.
We're recording.
Oh, we're already recording. Oh, okay.
Surprise.
We took a vote.
Are your feelings hurt again? Because we just talked about this a couple of days ago.
No. What they weren't, or in the first place. So
I felt like they were. All right, we'll work out our family issues later. Shawn, you were saying.
I was just saying, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
We've got today. Are you guys is it the founders of Comic Art Fans?
Bill's the founder.
Yeah,
Bill's the founder.
And there were 3 of us that originally created Comic Art Fans 21 years ago, and Kasra is our CEO. We've been making a lot of changes within the corporate structure and things around the site and the business model. And I've been working with Kasra since February before last when we started planning OAX. So it was just a good fit, and we wanted to work together. It was 20 years in the making. I've known Kasra for pretty much since the day CAF was born. I think Kasra was one of the first people to sign up to be a member of the site.
Oh, wow.
Ever since.
That's awesome.
So
Great.
Comic Art, so Comic Art Fans is for people who like to collect original comic book art and post it, and do they resell it on there too if they'd like?
Well, it's the collectors were the focus early on of the site. Certainly, I built it because I just wanted to be able to see more artwork that wasn't being shared online. You know, CAF came out before Facebook, right? So before any real major social sites were allowing people to have groups and things like that. There was only one website out there that let you share 5 pieces of art, and the 5 pieces people would only share would be like their best pieces or ones they wanted to sell. So you didn't get to see commissions and convention sketches and those sorts of things. And so CAF really was born out of my desire to be able to see more of the things that I was collecting at that time, because when I started collecting, I wasn't much of a published collector as much as I was a convention sketch collector. So CAF kind of has its roots there, and it was built for collectors initially, but early on, a lot of artists started using it, and then dealers started using it. It is a place, where people basically just, share their collected works, sometimes market them for sale. We have premium features that helps them do that easier. We have a twice annual virtual con on there now since the pandemic started. We're going to have our 10th in November. So CAF has evolved a lot over the 21 years that we've been working on it. And we even have an app coming out before the end of July.
So awesome. I assume both of you guys grew up with a love of reading comics, which led to an appreciation of the art behind it.
Without question, right? At the end of the day, I went to art school because I wanted to be an illustrator, and it was all because of comics that I had that desire. And I think a lot of us who are art collectors and fans of the medium, really, when we were young, for me, it was always the artist. I like the stories, but I grew up on really appreciating George Perez, John Byrne, Bernie Wrightson. And if I was copying anybody trying to, figure out their styles, it was usually, those gentlemen. So it was very easy to kind of transition into being an original art collector, although it took me until I was in my 30s to figure it out. I didn't know that you could buy it, but yeah, absolutely.
Are you still collecting?
Not as much as I should. I read a fair number of books, but not with any regularity. And it's probably more of a time issue. And where I live in Central Florida, I don't even know where my nearest comic shop is. I mean, I probably would have to drive into Orlando, which would be about an hour away from where I'm at, to pick up anything.
And how about you, Kasra? Same sort of backstory?
Yeah, immigrant family, like 3 years old on the floor of the local comic book shop, reading stacks of back issues, thinking that newsprint is the greatest smell on earth.
Yeah.
So if they made a newsprint cologne, I would probably wear it.
Right now we just rub some newspaper every morning when you wake up until they make it.
Yeah. I don't know, Mattteo. I don't know what it would attract. That's the problem. Yeah. Can you imagine if CAF was a dating site? That wouldn't go.
Please don't make me think about it. I don't even want to go there with my head.
The immigrant thing is honestly, the immigrant thing is kind of a big thing, and it's something that's I think about a lot in the history of American comic books, especially. We basically are, I don't know, in a way that we're built on the backs of Jewish immigrants. Everything good and wonderful that we all love, and I think about that a lot. And I think as an immigrant, it really was what we would call today a safe space. As much as anything, is something I could share with my older brother, but it was pretty solitary for us. It wasn't like we belonged to comic book clubs or knew about conventions or any of that. For a very long time, it was. Eventually, it was. He got a thick package of Mile High comics in the mail, and I got my thin package with my one Iron Man comic in it, and then I would get the leftovers. Like I would see Watchmen and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And it was always the art. It was always the art. Like when you finally figure out that these things don't come out of the ether and that there's actually people behind them making them, it was always the art. God bless the writers. They're necessary. Sometimes they're great, right? We know where the hard work is.
Some rare occasions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys are just asking.
I would read anything Dumb Shark writes. That's for sure. Yeah.
There you go, Mattteo. There you go.
Kasra, you just made his day. That he is going to be glowing the rest of this interview, man.
I've watched your show for a long time. I've watched at least 100 episodes of it, and abuse is love. I get that, and Mattteo accepts anything. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Cheers to that.
All he's known is pain, and so when somebody comes in and gives him like a little shriveled up piece of candy, he's like, "This is amazing. My life is so much better."
Although the more we do the show, the more praise he's getting.
I don't know. We shouldn't do that too often. That should be part of the email that we send out. Listen, you do not feed the gorilla behind the freaking cage. He's just going to keep asking for more food.
Mattteo, you got lucky, Mattteo. You have a good face. If you didn't have a good face, your life would be complete shit compared to what it is right now. Yeah.
It would be like Eric's life, Mattteo.
Listen, I'm glad I'm not controlling the broadcast today.
You can't leave. You can't leave today, buddy.
Bill, Kasra, when this opportunity came up, did you guys rethink this at any time? Did you go like, we watched this show and all these guys do is dog on each other, but we do have the opportunity to talk about the stuff that we love. So look, can we talk about that first before, we continue to bolster Matteo's ego and lower mine?
I remember Bill said Shawn wants us to be on the show. And I was like, first off, I was like, why?
Yeah.
There's a whole why thing, right?
Yeah.
And then at Heroes, I was like, should I go say hi to Shawn or not? I'm like, no, I don't want to say hi to Shawn. Why would I want to talk to that guy? Yeah. But I got to be honest, Eric, like at the last moment, I almost called Bill and said, Bill, I don't want you showing up on the show. I want to go on and I just want to obliterate these guys.
Yeah.
I just want this to be a total bloodbath. Like I want a 3-on-1. I want you guys to actually have to cooperate with one another against me. That was
my God. Oh my God. That's impossible.
I don't know if we can do that. This is a gladiator arena. Everyone for themselves.
So Eric, I'm like a firefighter or a police officer. I ran towards the problem. That's what I think of your show. Yeah.
God bless you. Can we follow up a little? Bill, you had a moment when you said you opened up CAF X amount of years ago. Where was it? 20, yes?
Yeah, 21 years, 2003.
At what point did it turn into sort of like the thing that it is now, which is, it's pretty substantial. It's interesting to have to explain it to people, especially for those who have been in the comic book orbit hemisphere space for a while, because it's a commonplace thing. I think for me, I knew it before Twitter, Mm-hmm. So it's interesting to think of it as an entity that's somebody like having, the history of 20 years worth, having to explain it to people, but you intended it to be a place where people could share its artwork. But like you said, it transformed into something else altogether. It didn't change, but it got compounded with everything else. When did you see that trend start to like, oh, wow, this is really growing into something pretty substantial?
Kind of early on, I think one of the first things where I realized CAF had some level of importance was that, the hobby back at that point, every dealer site was terrible. I mean, they were all, and some of them still are.
Yeah,
and,
for sure.
A lot of dealers, I'd say, well, the first dealer that came to me was Mark A from Splash Page. And, he was wise enough to say, you seem pretty smart. Like you could actually build a site that would be easy to maintain. And, and I want to work with you. And so those conversations led me to realize that if I worked with original art dealers, I could effectively have a central location for people to find original art, because I could pool all their inventories onto CAF, right? So I first worked with Mark, then I think I worked with Ramita Man, then Albert, then Anthony, then to this day, I think we have about 25 dealer sites we host. Yeah. But I think it was the realization that, people saw value in it beyond it just being a gallery site. Heritage was the first company to come to me and say, I want to put an ad on your site. That was 3 years after CAF started. So, and when I saw it, so when you have people approaching you and feeling like they want to give you money to promote their product, and you figure even at that point, Heritage was relatively new, at least in comic art related auctions, that's when I started seeing that there was potential beyond, just a hobby site for myself. And, at that time we were self-employed web developers, my wife and I, along with with Chris Haggard, who was in my employ in the other business, but he became a co-owner in the business when we started it. We just, it took about 5 to 8 years before we could kind of say CAF and that business was equal to what we were doing on the other side. But it was around that time when we just said, we're going to go all in with comic art fans as a business, because it was fun. It brought me back to everything that really, got me into into comics in the first place. I was getting to work with artists and, getting to see artwork that I never thought I would have had the opportunity to. And, it changed my life, to be honest. But it took a little while. The CAF was pretty clunky. If anybody goes back and looks at what it used to look like, I mean, people will say it's still, it's about 10 years dated in its appearance today. But back then it was very different. But the good thing for us is we've always built the site on a database platform that is Microsoft based. It's very expandable. So the thing is, and it is robust. A lot of people look at the front end and say, "Oh, it's a clunky old site," but it's not. It's really built on an incredibly modern platform, and that's why we're able to, with the app development today, it's just plugging in very nicely. And but that's about what that's what it took, though, was about 5-6 years before I realized we had something that had potential for me to kind of make a career out of it.
Now both you and Kasra are like art collectors, right? I just heard Kasra say like it was about art for him when he was reading his comic. Isn't it strange to think, as I reflect on, how far CAF has gone, to go like, you go from a space, an emotional mental space of like, here it is, something that I love collecting it, I love having it and potentially sharing it with other collectors. And somewhere along the way, it turns into a business. That's such a kooky thing to think about,
Yeah. And
makes me think about Jason.
I know. Yeah.
Our dealer.
Nothing makes me think about Jason. Go ahead, Kasra.
I think we're kind of just figuring it out as a business. So, I hear what you say totally and completely. And if I take it literally, Bill, Maureen, and Chris, for almost 15 years, it was very much just a sort of a hobby. They built a hub. It's a ones and zeros sort of thing, and it's certainly not on autopilot. It took work, but it wasn't their primary their primary profession, right? But it worked out beautifully. The big decision that Bill and Maureen made was during the start of the pandemic. To me, that was like that was sort of the go no go moment almost for comic art fans itself. They made Comic Art Live, the virtual art con. They built literally in a very small amount of time. Bill, the first one rolled out in May of 2020, didn't it?
Yeah, we did an ad hoc one in March of 2020. So within a month,
like literally like overnight. So there was like this thing where CAF could do things. I know that sounds like almost banal or something, right? But it's like, CAF can actually do things. So you've got this site. It's got these features. These features have been built out over time, and they're in place and their work. There's an audience. There's people that come there regularly and that give a shit about it. Okay, here we can build a virtual art con, and they rolled it out. And then the 9th one was just this last May. The 10th one's this November. It's been built out. It's twice a year, and the features have been built out. It was almost 30,000 people come to it during the weekend. You guys can sit at home, no travel, wear whatever you want or nothing.
That's awesome.
Sell your stuff. It's 365 exhibitors, live panels for 2 days, direct art sales, over $1 million sold. And this is prior to us rolling out the app, because the app is going to go right into everyone's pocket and help us go more global.
Yeah. So you're having an app built right now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's coming out probably, Bill, we'll just say it out loud, right before San Diego Comic-Con, if not right before it, right after.
Right around there. I mean, we've got about 3 more weeks. Three weeks of development, and then it takes like 2 to 3 weeks to get the approval to get it into the the App Store and Google Play. So it's very, very close.
Lots of jinxing it. Congratulations, you guys. That's freaking amazing.
That's great.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah,
the whole thing is CAF is we think of CAF as a for-profit sandwiched between a nonprofit and a union. If you can wrap your head around that.
Go deeper into that, guys. What do you mean?
Explain that.
It's Bill and I are not the corporate business guys that are looking to optimize profits. We're more of the ethically conduct yourself, creative core types that are unafraid to conceptualize something and manifest it in the world. We're that kind of type. And if it takes 100 hours a week to do it, so what? And and whether it works right away or not, so what? But we're folding in a little bit of sort of financial responsibility into that now, because we're going to be going out and raising some equity funding so that we can do some of the ambitious stuff that we want to do. So we are essentially we represent collectors and we're pro artists. So Bill and I joke internally, be Switzerland, be Switzerland, be Switzerland. It's kind of our little, it's our, everyone's got little short phrases with one another, right? Like, touch me, I'm lonely, whatever the phrase is. So be Switzerland is basically, we're a razor's edge thing.
Which is going to be the name of the app. Be Switzerland.
Yeah.
Right?
Be Switzerland. We're going to come up
Be
with
Swiss. Be Swiss. Sounds better.
Be
Swiss.
Yeah, hide your money and no 1099s. That's probably that's the name everybody wants. Yeah. So we have to walk a very, very fine line, and if you recognize that line all the time, it's kind of impossible, and your life is overbearing and whatever. But if you think about things as far as what you believe is right, what you're steadfast about, and you're responsible about, for example, how it's constructed or why you're doing it, and you're intentful, all of a sudden, everyone says, wow, you really walk a fine line. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about? That's kind of what Bill and I are like, and that's where we're taking CAF.
Yeah, my big takeaway is that, especially in recent times, people have been purposefully, potentially even accidentally, I don't know if accidentally is even... I'm trying to think of instances in which accidentally is applicable, but people have been stepping away from comics, right? There's been lower and lower interest. What I love about your guys' rhetoric, and obviously in your actions, is that you're investing more into it, in some capacity. You're not publishing by any means, but comics, CAF is still at the front end of that website, is still comics. That's amazing. So kudos to the both of you. I love that. Thank
you. There's a lot of evangelizing going on the YouTube channel as well. It's one of the biggest heartbreaks for me with kayfabe, besides the human factor, is that we've all, and everybody here is included, and for a very long time tried to sort of evangelize comics, if you will, that they're not just DC and Marvel. There's just there's so many corners of comic books. It's almost inaccurate to call them all comics. It's just crazy to me. And those guys figured out a way even to make Marvel and DC like zombies. Just listen and learn and look and try and experiment. And I admire them for that more than I think anything else. And we feel like we can do that with art. I'm sorry if I'm rambling here, but one of our like little dangling carrot guiding principle Northern Star things is that there's likely 100,000 comic book readers for every one comic art collector, and we think that ratio should be at least a log less, at least 10,000 to 1, not 100,000 to 1.
Sure.
And we feel like, especially in the States, there's a lot of sort of trying to get blood out of a stone joy-wise with comic books. There's a lot of bashing your head, and Einstein's a definition of insanity related to the core comic books, when there's just so much beautiful stuff going on everywhere that needs attention paid to it. And we have this feeling that if people just saw that they could collect a piece of original art, that it is a one of one, that it was made for them, that they could put it in their home, that it could go on a wall and decorate it, that they have a relationship to it, that relationship gets to change. There's a feedback system related to original art and all of that entails, that is amazingly distinct from bashing your head over a 40-year love affair with Superman.
Yeah, sure.
Right. And we just want to get them, we just want to prick a tiny little hole in the balloon, that tension balloon, and let anything else that's going to happen, and bring those people into art. And we feel like if they come into art at all, even if it's a sketch card, I mean, how much joy does Fred Hembeck give people? If it's just something as simple as that, they're going to go back to comics with a refound, rekindled, refired sort of passion.
Sure. Yeah. In your history with it, Bill, how, can you off the top of your head sort of like name a couple of things that have changed towards the positive in as far as like people's affection for original comics, beyond the business, but generally just for the love of it? What have you seen?
For the love of comics or comic art?
Yeah, well, no, it's like collecting original art and having an affection for it.
It's been interesting, over the 20 years. It's, and I don't know what triggered it, but about 5 or 6 years ago, we had a large influx of collectors, and it might have been, a younger group of collectors. For me, I'm in my mid 50s, and I feel like when I came into the hobby in my mid 30s, the collecting base was much older. It was a very closed community. The gentlemen were all
that image wave, Bill. That image 90s wave finally came forward.
Right, and that's why 90s art is so popular today. I think around 5 to 6 years ago, this group of collectors came in who were 15 years younger than me, had a lot more expendable income than me, and had a different appreciation for the art and the creators that even I didn't have when I started collecting. It was really interesting to see. I could point to many collectors that are on CAF who kind of fall into that point. But when those collectors came into the hobby, it was just before we started the live streams and things, and that really for me was the turning point. It was realizing that that there were new collectors coming into the hobby. And they could be more passionate than even I was about creators and collecting art, and I'm wondering where that next wave is going to come from. And I think that Kasra was kind of speaking to that, is how do we help people understand more about the joys of collecting original art and what that next wave will be. But that for me was it just kind of happened, and it took me almost 2 years to realize it did. But all of a sudden, I noticed these guys were overtaking CAF with their comments and the amount of art they were posting. And I think it invigorated a lot of the collectors who are around my age or even a little bit older to see all these new blood coming in. It probably helped drive up prices too, that we've saw in the period leading up to the pandemic and since then. But again, good for the hobby, great for creators. It sparked a lot of new and different business models out there with regards to reps and agents and all those sorts of things. I mean, that to me was an important turning point.
Can I follow up on that really quick, Shawn? You know what's in this past weekend? Shawn and I were both at Heroes, and somebody approached the table, and they said something that was pretty profound, which was, "Oh, I didn't know I could buy original art." That was that was such a weird, and they were younger, they would look through the pieces, right? And, admittedly, they said, "Oh, this is out of my price range." And I go, "That's all right," but the fact that they didn't quite understand, so this is available to me to buy. And I go yeah, of course it is, And so that's, I hope that happens to people more. Now, you guys are you guys have stood up an event which Shawn speaks very, very highly about. It's called OAX, right? And you guys hold it in Florida. Can you guys speak about how that started? What was the germination of that, and finally, what the challenges of execution? Go ahead, Kasra. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, I can tell you that I used to own Big Wow Comic Fest with Steve Morger, so shows were always kind of in my blood. I used to own a miniature golf course, so I loved hosting events for that. I think it's always kind of been a part of my DNA, even when I was.
Let's just do that. Forget the comic book shows. Let's just do miniature golf.
No.
And on the side, if you already have a history with it, Bill.
But the thing is, I've always enjoyed that. Even when I was in college, I did most of the work that I did became more three-dimensional and involved other people. So I feel like, it's always been a part of me. So, my experience with Big Wow was kind of was a lot of fun during the pandemic, or just as the pandemic was ending. We had hosted I still lived in Ohio. I hosted an event at the Billy Ireland Museum in Columbus when the Marvel exhibit was also there. Just kind of an ad hoc get together, and I rented a space at the hotel that we were all at, and we ended up having 50 collectors, 3 or 4 dealers there. It was just wonderful. It kind of an experience for me, and it really OAX I think kind of germinated out of that experience, plus the virtual cons that we were doing. I realized that there was a potential to reach well, I don't even want to say reach a different audience. So it was the potential to get everybody together physically, whereas, we'd spent 4 years doing everything virtually. And for me, I moved down here 2 years ago. I knew that I wanted to do it in Orlando, primarily because it's cheap to get there. There's a lot of reasons for families to come down there, and the timing of the event was timed off of the anniversary of Comic Art Fans, which is February 1st, 2003. So, I wanted it to be kind of a celebration of CAF, the hobby, and then kind of see where it went. And so it was February of the year before. I don't even know what was it, 2022, Kasra, when I got down to Florida finally. And what we did was I had a get together at the house. I was talking with Kasra about it. My early visions for this show was 12 or 15 artists, 3 or 4 of my closest dealer friends. Let me rent a 6,000 square foot room and get my feet wet. And so a year out, that was where I was at. And once Kasra and I started talking, I felt like having someone who could help me, realize something much more grand. I mean, and somebody who shared my vision for what not only that show could be, but what CAF could be. We just kind of expanded it, and so there was about 6 or 7 months of planning. I think that led it up to like the launch of the ticket sales and those sorts of things. Maybe a little less, but it was definitely a fluid process. I think even when we started the ticket sales in June of that year, we were still trying to figure out everything. We just secured the location, and there were challenges, but that's all. The germination of that is that I've always enjoyed it. Getting bringing people together, because you just don't know the dynamic of bringing 500 collectors, 120 dealers who are also art collectors, and then 60 artists, and then put them all in a room and see what happens. And we were able to do that in year one, and it was an incredible experience.
Kasra, can I follow up on that chuckle that you just did? He said something that made you go like, that's freaking hilarious. I think there's something there that you wanted to.
Yeah, you guys might. You
the
might
location, maybe.
No, the location is great, Mattteo. Come on.
No, because you started, you did it as he was saying location, so I thought maybe they had problems.
Yeah.
With the
I was telling him before we came on that there were some people, talent that wouldn't come because it was in Florida.
Shit.
Yeah. The
Matteo was one of them. Matteo was like, I only know 3 states in the United States.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Actually, your boy Kennedy over here, he didn't come because it was in Florida. Let's set that rumor out into the world. You guys might enjoy this. Like I like starting companies, and then I like getting the hell out when they turn into businesses. I worked in the biotech field. This is sort of an entrepreneurial, that's a fancy word for it thing. We basically started OAX with, I like to say, we did it with nothing. What was our working capital? $0.0. Yeah. Right? Who were the volunteers? The volunteers were basically, maybe a family member. Like Bill's family is always willing to help. But as far as putting the show together, there was no one that was going to help us. We had a couple of short phone calls with people. What contracts did we have? What information did we have? What guidelines? Nothing. Do we have a lawyer to talk to? No. Yeah. What we had was, the reputation of CAF and the community, and certainly what Bill and others have built over time. Obviously, there was a rationale for it. We're not crazy, but try to go out and find a venue with no money. That's a tricky one. You got to find a venue that works. You got to negotiate a contract. You have to somehow con them into not having upfront fees due to them. Or if they do, delay the payment of it.
The payment as much as possible.
Then you've got no language written. You've got no images. You got basically everything that you're saying is out of your butt, because you're just theorizing and making stuff out of thin air. Yeah. And then you launch it, and you use that as basically short-term working capital to pay the venue. You got to set aside at least 800 room nights, like $100,000+ of rooms, and that you're on the hook for if you don't fill. You know, I mean, Bill, I'm surprised Bill doesn't have an ulcer. So there was basically the whole thing becomes kind of a con game where you're kind of, I know this sounds funny, but you believe it, but it's not true. I'm not going to say it's a lie. It's not yet true.
Right.
And you're just rolling that forward. And at some point you're like, oh man, we really have to do this.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
And then at that moment, what you find out is that if you start a convention, apparently that's a very political and aggressive act in this industry. And people don't like that at all. So you ran into, we run into all of the childishness out there. And if you're out there listening, you are man children. God bless. We got over that, and then once we got over that, we were pretty much just home free because it was just stress and work. But everyone showed up. The artists showed up.
I love what you're talking about, man. I love what you're talking about because Bill just rattled off all the things that led into it, right?
Yeah.
And like saying it, I'm exhausted listening because I know everything that you're talking about, Kasra. You know what I mean?
No, you guys,
just to get on a plane to get to a show is a monumental task for me because I'm old and slow. But the fact that you guys are putting on something that, to your point, Kasra, didn't have anything. It was manifested from zero. And now as you're saying all the hoops that you needed to jump through, all the things that you needed to generate, I'm like, it's not easy, right? And that's not even guaranteed success, right?
If anyone could understand that, it's you guys as creators. I think it's really an underappreciated thing where when you actually create something, and it's hard to talk about this stuff without sounding foo-foo and running your face first into sounding like a cliche generator, right? But when you actually make something, there are moments when you're making something where you even kind of stop and you realize the nuclear energy inside of you that's required, that took you 20, 30 years to get there. Sure. Even you have a moment of consciousness where you're like, this is going to take everything. And then when you sustain that for an amount of time, like for example, if you've pitched a book, you're really not sure how it ends. It's going to take 8 months. The pay is going to be crap. You got to rearrange your life and, all the responsibilities you have. And then you're like 3 months into it and you're like screaming in your head, like, why did I do this? But you're still compelled to do it. And it's taking energy drawn from every aspect of your life, stuff your uncle taught you, the love you felt for your dog, how much you like food, what a teacher said to you once in passing as you guys were like whatever. Yeah. It takes all that stuff, and it's dangerous to talk about it, but that's pretty much what OAX took. And we decided early on that we were going to make a year 3 show year 1. And again, we're kind of big between the two of us. We just have like these simple little things that kind of ground us. Year 3 show year 1. Year 3 show year 1. We just said it again and again and again. Yeah. As dumb as it is, it set the pace.
Yeah. I mean, to your point, you guys understood, first of all, I suspect there's a couple of things that there's no way you could have predicted that popped up on your radar, right? But the stuff that did pop up on your radar, I would think that they're pretty huge, and nothing made you go like, oh no, we should really take the foot off the gas on this one. This is probably, a mountain that's uncrossable, I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. It takes a lot of energy for me to care about something. I think Eric, you might relate to that. And, and once I care about something, but once I care about something, I mean, you best reconsider what you're doing to cause a problem.
Yeah.
Outside of that, I'm peace, love, dope. But if it's something like this, Fan Expo, get out of the way.
It sounds like, though, the success of this show encouraged and enabled you guys to do a second one. So there's a next one coming up, right?
Annual show.
Holy cow,
there'll be a sixth one.
I'm exhausted. Just as you said it, I'm freaking tired thinking about it.
Can I ask you something? Regarding how the whole idea of the show began, and from the first idea of doing it to the actual making it. Since we're recently talking in another episode about the fact we're talking to Simone Bianchi, and we're finding similarities between OAX. I wasn't there, but Simona and Shawn were there, so they were describing the show, and they were both super happy about it. And we were finding similarities with another show that has become pretty big lately, which is the Como show, Lake Como Comic Car
Festival.
I don't remember. Festival. Was like seeing that show was that successful. Was that an encouragement even more so to create OAX? Or you didn't even know about the show? Like,
we know. We knew all about the show. Steve Morger's a friend of both of ours. I used to set up with Steve Morger at San Diego Comic-Con. Bill ran Big Wow with Steve Morger.
Yeah,
we knew all about it. We knew all about it. Sure.
So absolutely, we knew about it, and I've always wanted to go to it. Steve invited me to the first one in 2018. But did it? I don't know. Did the things that that show really influence us? I mean, our vision.
No. Sorry, my question was that seeing that the show has become more and more popular over the last few years, and artists started liking it. Was that an encouragement, even more so, to let's start this thing, let's start OAX, even though you already had the idea of making it, or
I wouldn't
not?
say it's not an encouragement, really. I mean. It's good to see. We definitely need more shows like that. There's been the Comic Art Con in New Jersey. I think for the last 14 years, they've always tried to have one or two artists there. Bashara, who runs Nostalgic Investments, has done 2 West Coast shows in LA and San Francisco for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, you can just look at Heroes from last weekend, a show that's all about creators, right? So I think all of those things are positives, for encouraging us to think that a show like OAX is, would have been viable, and that we could do differently. Because that's the main thing. If I was, going to do something, I have no aspirations to do a Heroes, and I didn't want to do a show just like Comic Art Con, for instance, that's all about dealers and less about artists. Yeah. We wanted to try to find a happy medium that really took what we were doing with the virtual show, the same people we were interacting with there, and got them into a physical location. It was the success of that. I mean, for OAX, we had a collector's corner, effectively, or a collector's island, right? Because collectors, by and large, are the main art sellers in the virtual shows that we do on CAF. So it was really like looking at that, getting us off of our chairs and giving us a place to do it in person, and taking the things that we had we've been experiencing virtually, since the pandemic, and giving us all a place to do it where we can, because a lot of the people that I've met virtually, I'd never seen in person before. And so that was, I just felt like this is something that is a community, we all need. And having it, based in a city that was easy to get to, all of that those were the things that were the encouraging thoughts, in all of that, I feel. But yeah, it's
Mattteo, anytime that someone can do something in Italy and it actually runs and it works, and if they can make any money on it,
just a miracle in and of itself.
Completely, totally, massive admiration. That location is so just gorgeous. The fact that Steve and Arnold could do it there is extraordinary. Yeah.
What saves us in Italy is that even things are really bad, organized, and nothing works, at least like the cities and everything outside, it's so beautiful that at the end of the day, you're like, all right, but fuck it. At least they got statues and monuments,
Mattteo,
and shit.
Like really
and good food.
Really good food, wine, and beautiful woman covers all mistakes.
Yeah, exactly. It's all distractions. It's all distractions so that you don't see all the shit, behind the curtains.
Yeah, I mean, here it's like drugs and taxes and stuff. And at least in Italy, you've got like the magic 3 for sure. Yeah.
I wanna answer Kasra's question from a while ago. When I reached out to you, your thought was why. I think there's 3 reasons why I wanted to have you guys on. One,
It's because we want to get invited next year to OAX. That was the main one.
That's the only reason. I lied. No, it was so. There's been a shift. I've seen more and more in the art community, people moving towards digital for its expediency and its efficiency. And as that's happened, I've leaned more into the hand done stuff, and it seems like there's a cluster of artists that have really leaned into more hand done artwork, and so that community's gotten smaller. But I feel like the craft in there has really grown considerably. So that's one aspect, which has created a healthier market from my perception. I'm curious to think what you guys think about that. For original art sales. And the second one being, like Mattteo said, we were talking to Simone on a show about this, and he was really talking about the future of the comic art market being like this big booming thing. So that's one reason I wanted to have you on, was to hear your thoughts on that.
Hey, Bill, do you mind if you take the first one and I take the second one? Because I got a lot of opinions on the second one.
Sure, I wanted to take the second one too, but your opinions are.
Let's go.
So basically, what they're trying to say that, Shawn, the first question was shit.
Totally.
Well, I think
here's the answer to the first one. Sure, Shawn, if it makes you feel better, yes, handmade art's going to be worth a lot more. Okay.
Well, I would say
we don't know. It makes sense. Yeah. Supply and demand makes sense, right? Sure. And the fact that less people are doing traditional work or handmade works, it follows that it would become, let's say, more attractive, or it would have a sort of a valuation component, a premium component built into it. Mm-hmm. I don't think, Bill, to be fair, I don't think that we've seen it yet. We've seen a little bit of the sort of monoprint phenomenon be mocked and not really come and go, and kind of still there. And there's a degree of acceptance in a segment of the population that accepts it, looks at it as collectible. When Dave McKean gives you like a one-on-one print of a Sandman cover, and the only file on a thumb drive or something, you're not going to go, Dave, stop bullshitting me, right? Right. And that was a while back. And now with the monoprint stuff, what I'm saying, there's been a little bit of a acclimatizing going on with that kind of thing, with the language and the on sort of unavoidable marketplace financial component of it is mature enough and substantial enough where people are confident to act on the impulse, which is, I like this thing, I want to have this thing for my reasons, but I can't lose my butt on it, because losing my butt on it doesn't let me act upon that impulse. Okay, so that stuff's gotten better, and over time, to be determined. I think you're right. I'd like to believe that there'll be a premium to art, but I don't know. There might be many other factors about where those premiums come from as well. Maybe there ends up being more of a premium for published works because there's less publishers. Maybe there's a premium for quality of work, regardless of sort of whether it was published or not. And this sort of 10x for a cover, 3x for a splash, 1.5x for a 2/3 splash. Panel pages vary. This sort of militant almost construct can go to the wayside, and it's image quality, right?
Yeah.
That's an evolutionary thing, but I would like to think that's going to be folded in, because that generation that we talked about, even the 90s guys, they are definitely smarter than us. And I like to think that the generation after that are going to be more sophisticated than them, and so on and so on and so forth. So, Bill, I answered one. Go ahead, number two.
Well, I would just add, that of course, as collectors, we want people to be making traditional artwork, and I agree with the things you're saying. I think that several artists are really elevating the traditional art form. Right? They're making their art more complete. A lot, kind of going along with what Kasra said, when they're really making works of art that stand on their own. And I could think of, like Nick Klein, for instance. Those pages could be printed in black and white, and they'll look as good or better than when they're colored.
Yeah.
I really admire the artists who are really taking their craft beyond, just a simple line work on a page. I think that I'd like to think that those artists can help inspire the next generation to continue working traditionally. I really do. I think. We're never going to be showing digital creations on CAF, unless I can't see it. And so, we need that. And I really hope that, the artists of the next 10, 20 years don't, ditch the traditional tools.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I've noticed since I started my hashtag Keep Craft Alive there, and at Heroes, it kind of solidified this. There's a whole generation of really young creators who I've met and have DM'd me quite a bit how much they love that and have dedicated themselves to traditional artwork. So my gut is that, we are going to see that. And on top of those reasons, another big reason I wanted to have you guys on, excuse me, was this podcast has been very focused on this new way of being a professional artist, which is more entrepreneurial in mind, where it used to be we always worked for the big publishers, which became giant corporations and became much more unpleasant to work for. And I'm noticing in conventions the same thing happening. And I feel like, the art community and the art collector community, we could build bigger bridges between each other. And being that you guys are this smaller entrepreneurial organization, and we are in a way too, it would be nice to have you guys on to discuss these things and discuss things like OAX and original art and bring communities together. Because I really like the community you guys have built, and that's been kind of a beacon for me as I'm trying to build my community to stay focused on that.
Can I take your temperature on something in as far as like collecting original art is concerned? Is there a barrier to entry as far as like what the original art is going for price tag wise? Is there a point where you go, hey, we don't see this kind of demographic because of the fact that this is, well, first of all, they have to be aware of it. But secondly, it just to your point, Kasra, that impulse is checked by a level of, responsibility and reality to the day to day. Is there like a thing where you go, the sweet spot, if you are a relatively unknown, is probably in this range, mid range looks like this, legendary looks like this. Can you guys speak on that from your experience?
Yeah, like, I'll not to be too cute, but is there a barrier of entry to listening to classical music?
Sure.
Why?
Yeah.
That's the nut right there. I'm glad that you got it immediately. There really shouldn't be. I mean, how much is a download? How much is a CD? You can get any classical music that you want anywhere for nothing. You can get Apple Music launched their classic thing, and what do? They give you curated lists. They're like, we're Apple, trust us. We care about you. We won't get in your way. Here's curated lists. Here's everything all in one place. Oh, we'll make it part of Apple Music that you already use. So it's just like literally, psychologically, and otherwise right adjacent to it. They have to use every single trick known to marketers and man to get you to take a look, because there's a component there. It's like a deep social, it's a caste system, it's a worthiness, it's a cool factor. It's all those kinds of things. And that's the way we kind of look at it with comic art.
Great.
People are intimidated.
Yeah.
So what do? The simplest solutions are the best. 30-second to 90-second videos, sequential in how do you set up a gallery? Where do I look for art? What can I expect? Here's a sketch card, free to $20. Here's a quick sketch, $20 to $60.
That's great.
Here's a convention sketch. We give them a menu and a tier that goes all the way up to, Bern Hogarth. It goes up to, 1920s strips, Little Nemo strips. We tell them that it's like cuts of meat almost, except you're not getting crap. There is every price point known to man, but yes, people are very intimidated because it is a big world populated by very high capacity human beings.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. If there's an opportunity for them to understand that, to your point, the barrier to entry isn't as, isn't so impenetrable. I think that's an audience that's just like hungry for that opportunity. If you offer that information to them, I would hope it kind of relaxes everybody,
I use all the right words too, because that exhale, relax, tension, it's small stuff, guys. It's just, how do we get it out there? How do we get people to see it? And, Shawn was there on Sunday during the slow hours on a volunteer basis. I think more than half of the 60 artists there did free 5-minute sketches for an hour and a half.
That's right. Yeah, that was
really
great.
Smart.
And the thing is it's like, okay, first off, it makes the artist look wonderful. It takes it away from being a hustle financial thing. Doing a lot of pre-con, very active pre-con work, we tried to make it so that a lot of the money was prior to the show so that people could actually be at the show, just be there, right? They can still do whatever they want every moment of every day, right? The sketch thing was, we knew families would be coming. We knew kids would be there.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And I actually walked one of my oldest best friends, his son, around, and he got his first sketches. And that was awesome.
Yeah.
But, it's not just small stuff like that, but we're trying to scale it up a little bit because, we're human beings and that's what we do. How do we do that on a larger scale? And we're pretty confident with the redesign of the CAF site next year, with the app rolling out this summer, and things like Comic Art Live, which are free. The cool thing about CAF, everything's free unless you don't want it to be. The site is free. If you want a premium, it's only like $6-7 a month. Comic Art Live, twice a year, the con is free. All the panels are free. The YouTube channel is free.
Yeah, that's great.
And we're viewing it like we got you when you first come in. We got you when you're 5 years old. We got you when you have your bar mitzvah. And we've got you when you get married. We've got you through we got you. We're here for you, and we're here for the artists. That's what we do.
That's great. Well done. Well said.
That's great, man.
And bat mitzvah, too. Come on. There are some girls that collect.
Yeah. Sure.
Shawn is just literally waiting for the invitation again. He's like, I'm going to keep these guys on for as long as it takes until they send me the freaking invite. It's until they get rid of me.
What's great is we've invited almost nobody so far, and it's like we're getting it's really the biggest compliment in the world. I can't tell you what the people that are asking us about it. And year 2 is complicated in its own way. It's going to be just 10 times easier than year 1, but year 2 is is emotionally harder because we still only have 60 slots. Who are we going to say no to from year 1?
Right. And I'm sure the demand to come is much bigger now. After everyone loved it the first year.
It's silly and humbling and awesome. And our job is to get more people there so that we can expand the number of artists that come. But it's never going to outrun the demand if we're doing our job right.
Can I follow up on that to the both of you? Like there was a something to be said about you maintained, potentially it was like a financial constraint from a organizational standpoint, but you said a number. Was it 60, Kasra? Bill, is that right? 60 artists?
Yeah, 60 artists.
You're going to expand that. Do you guys think that that's ideal? Because 60 feels right. It worked really, really well. Is it now like in your quest to grow it, right? To scale it up a bit. Do you think that by growing the artist, there's a positive impact, or are you just kind of like trying to see what the sliders look like moving forward?
Well, at the end of the day, it was we wanted to try to keep the best ratio of buyers to creators, as possible. Knowing what we were up against, and
there's a deep
knowing
responsibility there.
Yeah,
for sure.
I understand
for sure.
That.
and so really we kept with a 10-to-1 ratio, which worked really well. And looking at year 2, and we're working on the floor plans right now. We still want to keep to the same, very close to the same number of artists we had last time, but our goal is to grow the attendance by 50%.
Yeah.
So if we can do that, that opens up great opportunities in year 3. But the thing is, we always need to deliver. Everybody that goes to the show has to have a successful, fun, rewarding experience. It doesn't matter whether you're an artist. It's partially financial. Collectors have to walk away with art. The dealers have to have enough people in the room that are going to go and buy vintage artwork from them. The reps have to have enough pre-cons and that's what everybody has to have a successful show, or you're going to walk away with a lot of negativity. But we didn't get that because we kept our numbers good and we delivered on. We actually said our cap was 500 tickets sold, and we hit it. On the last day of the show, we had a couple walk-ups that pushed us to that number, which was surprising. I think going into it, we would have been happy if we had 300 or 350, but word spread pretty quickly, and that's why we're targeting the 50% growth for next year. But we don't want to expand the base of artists by too much at all. I mean,
that was actually a subject. Sorry to interrupt, Bill. Please finish, and then I'll say
no. That's but we've seen that not work out too well for other shows, and we're friends with businesses that have been hurt by poor attendance at shows, and you never want to have that. I mean, that once that happens, it could damage someone's business for 6, 8, 12 months. And so I don't want to be responsible for doing that, to someone. And so you do walk into a show like OAX and you feel like you have a great responsibility to everyone in the room. At least I do. I know, sometimes Kasra says I need to let go and not feel so responsible, but I do. I want everybody to have a wonderful time and walk away with exactly what they wanted, whether it's sales, it's art, experience. A lot of people, I think what we're going to find as time goes on, because Heroes is a show, for instance, where people go not always to buy artwork. They love the experience. They get to hang out with artists that they haven't seen in a while, collectors, etc. I want, if people only want to go there for that, I'm okay. But I want them to be able to enjoy themselves while they're there.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
Oh, no. I was actually about to say the same thing that Bill said. There's been some instances with this kind of shows the past years where, the things were going well and then, something happened to the balance between attendees and guests. And then, things stopped working. So they had to take a couple of steps back in order to find that equilibrium back. Because again, as you guys were saying, it's all a matter of finding the right balance, and you don't get it until you actually, put on a show, see the numbers at the end of the show, and then you decide, okay, we can do a little bit more here and a little bit more here, and then we'll see how it goes next year, because you go year by year. And I think you're doing the right thing by maintaining that number right now and see how things go next year.
I got a few things to say here that I'd like to say out loud, and I'd like to say to you guys just to see your expression. The 60 number is just a paper number. It's not a real number. As far as the deep responsibility goes to us is for everyone to do well. Great. What does that mean? Well, for example, Mike Allred and Laura Allred were there. Laura is a colorist. Laura is not drawing money off the floor. 59. Right. Adam Hughes and Allison Sohn were there. Allison's a colorist. She colors stuff for Allison there. She's not drawing large amounts of money off the floor. She's an artist. She's important to be there. 58. I can keep going.
Yeah.
I actually calculated, we looked at Shawn Gordon Murphy very publicly, did $80,000 of commissions through us pre-con. Shawn was not going to be doing that kind of work at the show. So I reduced it by like a half. I did a calculation on a per person basis. Who is drawing what off the floor? What is their expectation? Somebody is coming and they're depending on the show floor for their portfolios, they count as a 1. But if they aren't, they might be a half or a zero. We were actually 48.5. Now you know the number for year one.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a trick there.
That's smart.
I'm sorry, we shouldn't talk about the sausage making too much, but you guys, this is a sausage making show, right?
Yes. Yes.
So 48.5
Sometimes
was
it's just
really
a
our
sausage
number.
fest, but
It's always the sausage fest.
sorry, I had to make it.
I
had to try and make the joke.
We need help, man. We help this industry out.
I think by pointing this out, even Kasra surprised me by how much he cared. I mean, I don't necessarily analyze it and look at it and those that kind of criteria. But when Kasra was blocking out those certain things, those were the things that he was looking at. And while I couldn't voice them, but then you see him putting out into a spreadsheet, you realize, this is how much we care that this show works well, right? We're looking at all those numbers. I mean, Mike Allred didn't draw on the floor either, Kasra. He brought ours for sale through his draw.
The number was 48.5.
Yeah. Right, exactly. But that's how much we think about it. I think a lot of showrunners, a lot of the bigger shows today, they're all about just cramming as many exhibitors on the floor and as many people through the door that they can get. We're literally going down to counting how many people are contributing to things that are going to impact dollars and cents on the floor, and that's how deep we actually care about making sure that our show, is successful.
And I will say, hearing that explanation, it's great.
It's amazing.
It's amazing to hear the consideration you're putting forth to making sure that the artists who come do have a good experience, and it makes perfect sense the way you word it.
Shawn, we're thinking about moving venues because the turkey sandwich lunches we gave you sucked. We weren't happy with the pizza. We'll move venues just for that. Year 3.
Sure.
Sorry, DoubleTree.
Yeah. I mean,
that
you
was
guys
the only
are
on the comment card for this year. That was the only part that Shawn filled out. You know, what I mean, it wasn't even he was just like the turkey sandwiches and the pizza.
That is not. I was hungry.
Awful.
I did not care. I was busy painting, and it was food, and it was there.
We are over an hour. We don't want to take up too much of their time. Can I suggest something to you guys? If you bring either Shawn or Mattteo, right? You're doing the 0.5. Like, these guys are like 0.26. Like, don't count them as a half a person. You know what I mean? Count them as a quarter of a human, right? So,
guys,
anyway.
0.26. I'm going to actually look that up in like numerology and then find out if some truth just came out of your mouth, Eric, about
it's
the
true,
soul
man.
of these guys.
I hang out with these guys, and that's giving them weight. That's giving them 0.01 more credit than they need. They're actually 0.25. You know.
Well, but you also have to consider how many of the attendees Mattteo will drive away with his sausage jokes.
That's got to be a negative. That's got to be a subtractive at that point, you guys.
We saw Jason. Bill and I talked to Jason for a little while on at Heroes. I mean, first off, Essential has, what a roster. It's amazing artists, talents, human beings with Essentials. So we'll be talking to them. Bill and I are actually, we took over the entire convention center. We're going to have 60,000 square feet. We're trying to do a secondary show floor.
Holy cow, gentlemen. That's great.
Everybody wants to come back, but there's a secondary floor. Who do we put in the secondary floor? Who's going to take the lead on that? We're doing the floor plan now. We're putting the budget together. And within the next 30 days, we'll have another wave of artists announced. So
what's the date for the show?
It's January 24 to 26, 2025. Yeah.
There you go. Start talking
in
to
Orlando,
these people
Florida.
now.
Beautiful.
Start setting up your calendars now, you guys.
Well, guys, thank you so much for giving us your time and coming on the show.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it.
Was great.
Thank you, guys. I really enjoy your show, honestly. I wish we could have talked more shit to one another, but maybe next time.
Yeah, next time.
Next time.
Yeah, this one was just to get to know each other. Next time it's gonna be shit talk.
Yeah.
This is the date. This is the date. Next time we'll fuck.
First date.
Bill, you are not under any obligation to come to the schedule.
Yeah, I think I might leave that one to Kasra.
Let's make.
Wow,
making
Bill.
making out session the next time, and the third one is the charm.
Matteo's more traditional than everybody else.
You realize
I'm Italian after all.
Bill could wear a gimp mask and just watch.
Now we're talking Florida. All right,
thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
All right, Mattteo, sign us out.
So fucking annoying.
The Inkpulp Podcast. Hey, Eric, what's up?
Hey, Shawn, I was just looking for Mattteo online like I do every morning for my daily dose of inspiration. And all of a sudden, I stumbled upon his new website.
Mattteo has a website? That's amazing. Let me see.
Isn't it great? It has everything you need to know about Mattteo. You can buy his books, check his newest Instagram posts. You can even watch the latest episode of our podcast on it.
Wow, Mattteo is amazing. This is so great. But wait a second. What is this?
This is the best part. By subscribing to the Dumb Shark newsletter, not only will you receive promo codes for original art on Essential Sequential and information about new releases, but you'll also have access to a digital version of Behind the Fins, which is Matteo's unpublished new sketchbook that collects all of his best cover layouts.
Wow, Mattteo is so generous. This is an awesome gift. I want it too. Let me subscribe right now.
Yeah, Mattteo really knocked it out of the park with this one. Right when you think he's hit his peak, he somehow finds a way to outdo himself. I'm so impressed.
Hey guys, I'm a little worried. Looks like someone keeps looking for naked pictures of me online. Wait a second. Eric, is that you?
Nope.